Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Samsung Galaxy S20 and see how this particular phone holds up in 2024, particularly in the middle part of 2024. Now, for the average person out there, I think there are some cases to be made where the S20 is still a very interesting device and still a very powerful device in some ways, but I would probably tell the average person to go ahead and get a phone that's still supported with software. This phone's not really there right now, so if you want to go ahead and buy something I would recommend buying, links are down below. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, the big thing to keep in mind with this particular phone is that the exterior is still doing a really, really good job. I think this is one of those devices that, for the most part, if you're going to go ahead and buy, I think Samsung did a killer job the first time they did this, and I do think it's still a phone that I recommend a lot of people to buy for sure, in some ways. The exterior-wise, 6.2-inch dynamic AMOLED display, 1440p, 120Hz. This, funny enough, still has a higher resolution panel than the Samsung Galaxy S24 that just came out this year. So the fact that there's that type of situation going on is a very crazy thing. And I do think, once again, this in and of itself is a funny thing kind of going on here. I would say though, the outside of this thing in some other ways doesn't hold up too well, but I will say from the screen at least, curved panel, and it still looks very good for the most part. USB Type-C port on the bottom, and you are getting a microSD card slot on the back side of this phone as well. And this in and of itself is another very crazy thing going on for this phone. The fact that you have a microSD card slot. A majority of the phones, 99% of the phones on the market right now, are not going to be giving you that. So I do think this in and of itself, once again, is another very big thing to keep in mind within this particular device as well. So that right there is another big thing to keep in mind there too. Triple camera setup on the backside. Standard glass back. The back of this phone doesn't really look that great. It doesn't look that ugly either, but it just doesn't look as good as maybe some other phones on the market either. But I will tell you, for the most part, if I'm going through and if I'm buying a certain device, I really don't think this thing looks terrible. And I think for the most part, it's still a very good looking phone nonetheless. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. Now on top of that, from the performance side and software side, the software is the big thing. This phone's not really getting software updates anymore. So from the beginning of this year to the now, it really hasn't gotten any big updates. It's gotten some security updates here and there probably. But beyond that, it's not going to be getting any big massive updates that I'd probably recommend people to go and kind of buy or get a phone that basically has that type of performance and has that type of stuff inside of it. So I think that in of itself right there is another big thing that to kind of keep in mind there too. I think from a performance side, this performance of this phone is actually interesting because it had that Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 chipset inside with 8GB of RAM inside of it. A lot of phones nowadays still have 8, if you look at the Samsung Galaxy S24, this particular phone still has 8GB of RAM too. So it's not necessarily the biggest or, it's not like it's lacking an insane amount of RAM, although the newer models have more RAM in some cases. I think a phone like the Samsung Galaxy S20 is still doing kind of decent in some ways. So I do think from a performance side, it's not terrible. It's not perfect, but I don't really think it's doing that bad of a job either. And once again, I think that's one thing to kind of keep in mind there too within this particular device. So overall, although I probably would not recommend anyone to go and buy this phone anymore to use on an everyday basis, I still think there are some cases where you could go ahead and buy a phone like this and still have a decent time. So take that as you will. I like this phone a lot, and I do think for a lot of people it's still a phone I'd recommend the average person to go and get. But like I said, I probably wouldn't recommend this phone if you don't want to go and get it. I would probably recommend something like a Galaxy S21 or one of those types of devices. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.